All right, and we are live. I hope everyone is doing well today. Tyler, how are you doing? All right?
I am good, yes.
Good. Did you get anything for Black Friday?
No, not really. I got my wife's stuff, but that's about it. I, all
You
my
didn't order
money
any
goes
comics.
to her.
You didn't order any comics, huh?
No, I told myself I was going to, and then just didn't happen. Life got in the way.
Maybe it's for the best, saves you some money.
Yeah, and I have no shortage of books to read or reread, so there's no issues.
Yeah, I get that. What are you reading?
Um, Currently nothing because I finally finished the Peter David Hulk omnibus. So I'm trying to get the review out on that.
Awesome.
I'm trying to do Omar's near mint video and trying to do a or a video covering the new Ultimate Marvel and everything so far. So not
Okay.
anything new. Keeping the plate empty right now.
Cool. Cool.
What about you? Are you reading anything good or no?
I'm still reading this novel, The Devil in the White City. That's pretty good. I'm not even like halfway through, and I feel like I've been reading it for like ever now. So I don't know. I'm kind of getting tired of it. But I just read In by William McPhail. I reread it rather. That's really good. I'm going to do a video on that because I have a lot to talk about with it. And right now I'm reading Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. Have you ever read that?
No, but I plan to order it very soon.
Do you have it?
No. Nope.
Okay. It's so good. I'm rereading it again too. Hey, Beyond Comics, how are you? We're
Yeah,
going to talk about.
the main thing that I remember that Four Kids Walk Into a Bank is I think BJ did a book club on that where they like passed it around and they like signed the inside of it or something like that. And I thought
Really
that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was the only time I really heard of that title.
interesting. Okay. And all right. Interesting. I will I think I'll do a video on that though too, because I really am digging it so far.
I'm digging your videos when you were like
Thanks.
going through my entire collection book by book. I was like, why the heck have I not thought of that? That's like
Yeah,
unlimited content right there.
yeah, for shorts. I just tried to think of something that I could do daily and that they're not, too time sensitive rather. They don't take up a lot of time. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun going through again and looking at some of the books, like in I started to reread because of the short I made. I'm like, oh, I do want to check this out again. So it was definitely worth it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So if you want, you can steal my idea by all means. I would love to see your collection on a day-to-day basis. That'd be awesome.
I
Um,
might have to because when it comes to shorts and stuff, like I think too big, like I always
mm,
like want something that's like not not so off the cuff, like something super organized and scripted and stuff like that. And
yeah.
that's not what the shorts are for, so I just think too big when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I think there's a place for both. You definitely can't have those scripted shorts that are nicely edited and put together, but I think there's definitely a place for kind of off the cuff shorts, like you said. So yeah. Um, do you want to dive into Creature Commandos right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Sweet.
kind of excited to get into this because I think it's going to be
Me
a
too.
good cop, bad cop episode.
Or you think so? Why
I
is
do
that?
think so because I think I'm going to be in the maybe the minority based off everything that I'm hearing so far.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, let me ask you. Let me put this banner up too, because let's just talk spoilers. I mean, I don't want to have to try to navigate around spoilers. So, if you haven't seen the show yet, well, watch this stream still, whatever. Who cares? No. What are your like initial thoughts about the show? You just like give me like 5 words. So, it doesn't have to be exactly 5 words, but just like a short sentence.
Where did this come from? That's my initial thoughts.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's better than what I would have come up with. I don't know. I love this show. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. So why don't we just dive into episode 1, kind of off the bat, and let's talk about some of the characters. So we have Rick Flag Sr., who we're introduced to right off the bat. And I feel like we still, after watching both episodes, we know a little bit about his character, but not a whole lot, but I think we know enough, he's an interesting character. He's an older kind of guy. He's been working for the government, seems like forever. And he's been through a lot, he has a lot of battle scars, I'll say.
Yep.
And so I did think it was an interesting choice to bring his character in, I guess based going off the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn did. Rick Flag Jr. dies. And it seems like I should have watched the Suicide Squad, but from what I remember from that movie, Amanda Waller pretty much gave Peacemaker the okay to kill him. So she's pretty much responsible for his son's death, which he clearly has no idea about,
Yep.
So I wonder if that will be brought up in the show later on. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Rick Flag Sr.?
I think he's a interesting character. I remember seeing leading up to this that Peacemaker was going to be in canon, but I didn't remember him mentioning Suicide Squad was. So maybe I missed that, but that's really where I was the most surprised by his character is when they start referencing the death of Rick Flag and how that was still in canon. That is something that still happened, and that is something that is still affecting him mentally 2 years post movie, because they also talk about that. So, I think that's probably the most interesting aspect about his character is the confirmation behind Suicide Squad being James Gunn's Suicide Squad. We have to be specific, is in canon to this new DC universe.
From interviews that I've seen from James Gunn, I think he says anything that's mentioned in this show, whether it be from Peacemaker season 1 or the Suicide Squad, is technically canon. So I think that kind of raises the question, is then the whole movie canon of Suicide Squad and the whole first season of Peacemaker, or is it just the aspects that are mentioned?
I have a different question referencing that. How do you feel about that? Because I have some opinions on it.
I don't love it. I feel like I don't know. I don't know. It's weird to me. Like I feel like James Gunn is trying to kind of bake the cake and eat it too, almost. Where he's kind of cherry picking what's canon and what's not, which is okay. I get, it's his universe now, so he can do whatever he wants, but I think if they just did a really hard reboot with the Superman movie coming out, and that's really the first entry into the DCU, I think it'd be better. It'd be a lot less confusing too. Obviously, we're having this conversation about what's canon and whatnot, so I think it's something that James Gunn is aware of, that maybe it's going to be confusing to audiences. So he's trying to get ahead of that, basically saying if it's not referenced, then it's not canon, which maybe I'm misquoting him on that too. But that's kind of what I gather. So I don't love it. What about you?
Yeah, I really don't like it. I wish we just started with a clean slate personally. I think it's very cherry picky also, and I also kind of think it's like the worst type of cherry picky because it's like only James Gunn's projects is what's canon, like it's
Right.
like, oh, Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, that's going to be canon. Everything else doesn't matter. And then when he was saying in an interview that like Peacemaker up to when the Justice League shows up is all canon, and then now we're just getting messy, So I
Yeah.
really just wish we did a clean slate, and I could be eating my words in a year from now where this goes off beautifully, So
Yeah.
I'm saying that worth a grain of salt, but I do wish if I had it my way, I still have hope in James Gunn, but I do wish it just was a clean
Clean slate.
slate, not
Yeah.
as messy.
No, I agree, and I think it is definitely a little messy,
Yeah.
um, because there's Peacemaker season 2 coming out, so it's like, okay, is that gonna how is that gonna fit in now? Because at the end of the first season, we see the Justice League, and that's the DCEU's Justice League,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. It just raises a lot of questions, and it doesn't feel like a hard reboot. It's like almost like a soft reboot of the universe,
Yeah.
which I'm not a fan of. I
Yep.
I kind of agree with you. I think it should have just been a clean slate. Um, but let's dive back into some of the characters. So we have Rick Flag Senior, and I like the joke. There's a joke in there about his middle name, how it's just Bill. It's not like William or anything. It's
Yeah.
just Bill. I thought that was funny. Um, And then we have the bride, who's like Frankenstein's bride, Dr. Phosphorus,
Yes.
the Weasel, GI Robot, and then also, I'm going to butcher this one. Her first name is Nina Mazas. I don't know how to say it. She's kind of like the, I don't know, the underwater character. Yeah, she's kind of like a fish.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite out of the crew so far?
Um, I would probably say GI Robot and Weasel are probably my two favorite. Um, and that may be because they have the least amount of lines. But I also do like Dr. Phosphorus. I do think he's
Really?
a pretty interesting character. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. See, I agree. I GI Robot is definitely one of my favorite characters. She's like
Yeah.
either the first or second. I don't know yet. Um, but up there too is with the bride. I really like the bride character,
Mhm.
and the second episode we really kind of get to see her shine. But I think GI Robot. I think he's just funny. I like it. There's obviously I feel like there's not a whole lot to that character, at least as of right now. Who knows? It seems like he's kind of one note. He just wants to kill Nazis. And there's going to be a lot of jokes throughout the season, I imagine, about that. But I think it works. I think it works. So I like his character a lot. Weasel, I don't know. I don't know. There's the line in there about how he kills kids. So for me, I have a tough time getting past that, I guess. But I don't. I was wondering, and they may still do it where maybe they explore his backstory and whatnot. Um, with Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad, there's a line about how Peacemaker kills women, children, whoever, in pursuit of peace, right? Like,
Yep.
but obviously they go back on that in the Peacemaker show where does not do that. So you kind of sympathize with him more. So I wonder maybe they'll do kind of a bait and switch with Weasel where it's kind of revealed that he didn't actually kill a bunch of kids or something like that. Um, so I don't know. Dr. Phosphorus. I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen enough of him yet to really give a verdict. I
Yeah,
think
I feel like he's in a lot of ways like obviously the bride kind of seems like she's doing her own arc, her own storyline that we're following.
yeah.
But I feel like he in a lot of ways is like the center of the creature commandos because the bride is like so removed and doing her own thing and Rick Flag is obviously the leader, so he seems to kind of be like the wrangler of the rest, the GI robot, the weasel. He is the other, like he's the member that kind of keeps it grounded in the
Interesting.
actual group itself. That's how I viewed it, at least, because if you really like watch the episodes, there's like multiple chapters going on. You got the bride doing her thing, you got Frankenstein and what's going on with him, then you got Rick
Yeah.
Flag's overarching story, and then you have the Commandos coming to terms with that Rick Flag is their leader and they're here to do a mission and they have a purpose and stuff. So I think he's like the center of that story there.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I would say I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that because I think you're right. I mean, with the bride and then also Nina, I mean, they're kind of off doing their own thing. But I guess within like the men of the group, yeah, I would say Dr. Phosphorus maybe is kind of the one holding that group together. But I don't know. I will say let's talk about the premise of the show first. So we get introduced to these characters pretty quick. I like how quick it is, but I don't like how it feels very not a super original. Like it feels very reminiscent to me of how we're introduced to the characters in Suicide Squad, where they're just in a prison. And I get why I think they did it because they just did not want to spend too much time introducing the characters themselves. And they just really wanted to get to the point. I mean, it's only 30 minutes per episode, right? So they just don't have enough time really to flesh out their introductions. But I do think it works the way we're introduced to these characters, having them all in the same prison. I think was it Belle Reef? I think.
Hmm.
I believe it was.
Yeah,
But
so.
I just didn't think it wasn't too interesting for me. I think the beginning of the show was a little weaker. I did enjoy the news feed that like opened the show with the country, what is it? Pakistan? No, that's not it. Yeah, I think that is. I don't know how to say it, but a foreign country or whatever.
Yeah.
And Cersei, invading essentially. So I don't know. I thought the beginning was a little. It just wasn't anything too special to me, at least. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. It was a lot like Suicide Squad, but I think those comparisons are kind of meant to be
Mhm.
present because in a lot of ways this is just the Suicide Squad, just with monsters and
The monster.
creatures
Yeah.
rather. I do like that they're using people that are like kind of or seem to be pre-established in the universe and they join the Creature Commandos, because I did some research into like the comic books and stuff like that, and those characters were created for the Creature Commandos, and
Oh, okay.
those were even more unoriginal. So it is kind of nice that they seem to be plucked out of the DC universe and put into this show, rather than now we got to get, which we'll still get an origin. Like, I think you're right on the money where we're going to dive into each individual character and
Yeah.
how they're not actually bad. They're morally gray and all this stuff. But I think it is nice that they're like pre-established characters from comic books that a lot of people know, because the Creature Commandos is super obscure. Like, nobody, even if you read comics a lot, nobody knows Creature Commandos.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's kind of what I gathered, kind of about the team, the Creature Commandos, that they're pretty, obscure even for comic
Mhm.
fans. Like the Suicide Squad is definitely not. I think even before the 2016 movie, it was a pretty popular property, if I'm not mistaken. But like the Creature Commandos, I had no idea who they were. I never heard of them or anything like that. So I did kind of go in blind. I didn't really know anything about the characters other than the ones we kind of already were introduced to, like Weasel, the bride. I kind of got what they were going with that, with her character, but the rest I had no idea anything about. And I will say I think James Gunn, he's such a good I he has such an ability to take these obscure characters and almost like laughable characters in a lot of ways, like Polka Dot Man,
Mhm.
and Suicide Squad, and he just has a really interesting way at grounding them and making the audience essentially root for them and feel for them, and I think he does that with the Guardians movies as well. I think he's just so good at that, taking this random character and essentially humanizing them. And I will say, I think it's interesting. I think we're going to explore a lot of the human aspects of each of these characters more so. With the second episode, we see the brides, uh, human aspects, and so I think it's an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, between them being monsters and labeled as such, where in reality maybe they're really more human than humans. Um, so I don't know. I'm excited to see where the show goes. But with the first episode, pretty much, we get introduced to the characters within like 5 to 10 minutes. I'd say they're off to the foreign country to stop Cersei, who's trying to take it over. And yeah, they're going there to protect the country and the princess. Princess, I don't know how to say her last name. Her first name's Alana, though. Um, and I love the castle. That's something I wrote down when I was watching the show. The castle design for the princess or whatever, and like the
Mhm.
interior, I thought it was like beautifully designed.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the whole show is pretty well designed and animated. Um, I would say it's pretty solid. Nothing that necessarily stands out too much to me, maybe other than the castle. But overall, I mean, it's a beautifully animated show.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that stood out during that first taste of action that we got between Rick Flag and Dr. Phosphorus, where I mean the fluidity of the choreography and them fighting and everything like that. I thought it
Yeah,
was really well done, and it
yeah,
had me on the edge of my seat. I was very excited during that particular sequence.
yeah. No, absolutely. And I like it too when they get to the castle, um the bow gag. You know what I'm talking about with Rick Flag bowing and
Yeah.
he like bows wrong, and the
Yeah.
the knight kind of jokes with him. So I thought that was kind of funny. Um, and let's see what else. So yeah, I mean, we do get some Suicide Squad references, right, with Nick Flag Jr. and then obviously Weasel being here, and then also we get a reference to Peacemaker season one with Amanda Waller's daughter, how she outed her mom essentially, which I completely forgot that even happened in that show. So, um, but overall, I think this first episode is good. I
Mhm.
like how quick we get introduced to the characters. It feels like they're really not wasting much time with getting to the action. We like I said, I feel like within like the first 10 minutes, the team's already in the foreign country that they're there to protect, and then from there, um, we see them interact with the royalty. And then there was the joke about the royalty family being like inbred with all the portraits on the walls. So I thought that was funny. And overall, I mean, it is a funny show, and I think most, if not all, the jokes land for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I just I don't know. I do fear that was my one reservation when James Gunn was named as the head of this,
Mhm.
new DC moving forward is I don't want it too jokey though. That I mean, I definitely want it lighthearted, but I do think that's
Yeah,
a fine line between, jokey and lighthearted. That's like the difference between Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, like you can toe that line where it's well done, but I do want some seriousness to it. And I know Creature Commandos may not be the project where we see that because it's just such an odd concept in general, but
yeah.
I do want some seriousness out of this entire movement.
Um, yeah, I agree with you there, and I do have faith in James Gunn that will get that. He
Yeah.
is definitely someone who he likes his jokes, and I think in most his movies the jokes are funny and they land well. And especially here, I feel like it's a great example of James Gunn's sense of humor.
Yep.
And I can totally see where someone may be worried about future installments within this universe being a little too like James Gunny, and you gave a good example there with Ragnarok and Thor: Love and Thunder. And I totally agree. I mean, I think with Ragnarok, I really love that movie. It's very funny and very comedic, but it knows when to be dramatic, essentially. Where I feel like Love and. Just kind of botched that.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy that movie really. So I can totally see kind of your concerns with that, but yeah, I guess we just won't really know until we see Superman. Really,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're all just speculating at this
yeah,
point. I mean, just for the sake of conversation. I mean, I'm the number one guy that's kind of like, I'm going to wait and see before I cast any type of judgment. So
sure,
everything I'm saying, like I'm not willing to die on this hill. I don't think that is 100% the case, but I do fear of it. I mean, I want DC to have a big splash in the cinematic world the way Marvel did because the property is deserving of it. All the characters, the universe, all of that. So I do hope he pulls it off. I have a lot of hope, but I do not want it to all be a joke also.
yeah, yeah. And if I had to put money on it, I would say I think James Gunn is going to stake the landing with Superman. There's definitely going to be humor, but I think overall, it's going to be lighthearted. I don't think it's going to be like dark like the Man of Steel. I don't want it to be.
Mm-mm.
I do think it's going to be overall pretty lighthearted, but you are going to have those emotional scenes, and he does a great job of that with the Guardians films, where overall, I mean, a lot of those films are very comedic, but there's a lot of gut wrenching scenes in there that I think James Gunn knows how to walk that fine line. Um, so I'm optimistic, is I guess what I'm trying
Yeah.
to get at, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Me too. We really won't find out, like you said, until Superman. I mean, this is realistically an appetizer. Creature
yeah,
Commandos. Nobody saw all of the projects James Gunn's was going to put out and said, "Ooh, Creature Commandos, that's the one." This is 100% appetizer for the main course that is Superman, and
yeah.
that's when we'll really find out. What he has in store for the universe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I guess since this is our first real introduction to his DCU now, um, I wonder the other characters we may see kind of spill in through this show that we get
Yeah.
teases to. I mean, obviously with we get teases to Wonder Woman, right?
Yep.
And I think in one of the trailers we see Clayface, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, I think within this show, we're definitely going to see the bigger universe, and I'm excited to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So overall, what would you say? What would you give it on like a scale 1 to 10?
Just episode one or both?
Episode one,
Episode one, I would say a 7.
a 7.
Yeah.
Okay, I would probably give it. I think I'd give it maybe like an 8.5. Honestly, I think the only thing that really drags it down for me is the beginning. I think it just wasn't too exciting and not
Mhm.
too original. But I think, and it's not that doesn't make it bad. I think that
Right.
the opening's fine, you know, but I think, we could have seen other ways to introduce the characters. But after that, after they go off to the foreign country, I think it kind of picks up. Um, so yeah, overall, I mean, for me, this was a strong start to the characters of Creature Commandos,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see the rest of this season, kind of where these characters goes. Yeah,
Yeah, I do find it very interesting that the cast that he did decide to put into the show, like, there is no original Creature Commandos in this show at all. There's Frankenstein is technically a Creature Commando, but it wasn't the same Frankenstein. It was just
Right.
a monster or a soldier that was experimented on until he turned green, and they removed his vocal cord so he was like Frankenstein. But there is no original characters other than GI Robot. He is the only character that, like, from the original Creature Commandos to now this show has carried over, but everybody else is different. There is no
Really?
vampire, there's no werewolf, there's no Dr. Medusa, there's
Hmm.
none of these characters. It is a completely new cast, which is pretty crazy. I mean, I do think it was kind of the right move because no one wants to see, uh, Creature Commandos with essentially a werewolf, Dracula, and Frankenstein, but it is still interesting that he went that route.
I wonder. I wonder if we'll see those characters pop up later in this season or maybe in future seasons. Because
Maybe,
that's something I didn't connect, and I don't think it's a lot of people are talking about that, right? Because I don't think Creature Commandos is it's definitely not an
yeah,
all-star team, right?
no,
Um, and then B2, I think Creature Commandos like Suicide Squad, you can change the roster up a lot and people will be fine with that. But here I feel like even more so where obviously you can take all the characters except one and do something completely different with it.
yeah.
So that's something that's interesting. I didn't really put that together. Um, yeah, huh? Like I
I
said, I mean,
do I do miss the presence, and I think this would be a interesting way to involve him into the bigger scheme of the DC universe is the character of the vampire. So in the New 52, Frankenstein and Agents of Shade, which is essentially the Creature Commandos during the New 52 era,
mhm,
the vampire character was the vampire because he had an experimental serum from Man Bat injected into him. And I think
interesting,
if they would have brought that character, that would have been a great way to kind of branch him even more into the DC universe.
interesting. Yeah, I wonder maybe we'll see any of those characters, because I feel like, I mean, Dracula is definitely kind of in the I mean, he's gotta be in the public domain. Same with Frankenstein and the Bride, I
Oh,
imagine.
yeah.
Um, so I wonder if those characters will pop back up, and we'll see, I think it'd be cool to see DC's Dracula and James
Mhm.
Gunn take on that character, um, because I did, and this is kinda leading into episode 2, I did enjoy what he did with Frankenstein and then also the Bride. How he kind of switched up their not I mean not drastically or anything, but he switched it up for the show, and I think it works
Mhm.
overall. So I guess let's dive into episode 2, which is titled the Tourmaline Necklace, which is the tourmaline is a pink gemstone. That's what they said in the show. Um, and the show opens, with the creation of the bride, which I thought I haven't really watched too many of the Universal monster movies. Obviously, I know of the character in the premise, and we see Frankenstein really is kind of the one that says, "Hey, I want a bride." I guess it makes sense. Um, and his name's Eric. I don't know if you picked up on that,
Mhm.
which is interesting. Is that how it is? That like Frankenstein monster's name in the comics? Do you know? Or is that just something James Gunn was like, I he's because his name's gonna be Eric?
I've maybe read one issue of the New 52 series, so
Okay.
yeah, super obscure for like these characters for me as a reader. Just like a more superhero guy, so
Yeah.
this was definitely out of my element as far as like knowledge base.
And what do you think of the opening scene there with the flashback to like the 1850s, I think it was, or something like that, with the creation of the bride? Do you like the character of Frankenstein and kind of what they're setting up with the bride, or what are your thoughts?
Um, Now this is, I guess, where I might be a little divisive.
Okay.
Second episode, absolutely disliked. Not good. Did not like anything about it.
Wow.
I thought the kind of origin of Frankenstein and the Bride just seemed like the Frankenstein and the Bride origin from like the monster movies.
Mhm.
I didn't think it was really too creative, but the standout thing that drove me absolutely nuts was which is crazy because I was so excited about it, is David Harbour voicing the Frankenstein. Horrible. I
Okay.
was I was bordering putting earmuffs in my ears because
Oh
I
my
could
god.
not stand his voice. I don't think he's a very good voice actor. The Frankenstein crying was laughable. It was not emotional. It was just, I don't know. I feel like it took me so far out of a scene that kind of felt like it was meant to be a little bit more emotional because it's the Frankenstein, getting a bride made for him, and then she wants nothing to do with him, and it's supposed to kind
Right.
of be this scene, and it just took me so far out of it. His voice, his line delivery, everything. I just hated it. It was not
Wow.
for me.
Do you like David Harper and other I mean, I've really only seen him in Stranger Things. Do you like have
I
you seen
saw
that
him in
show? Do you like
Hellboy.
what yeah, and Hellboy, which I haven't seen, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you like Stranger Things and his performance in there
Yeah, he's my
or
favorite character in Stranger Things.
yeah, he's
So
mine
I
too.
really like him as a actor. Um,
Just didn't
I think
work
he's a
for you
little
here.
typecasted. Yeah, but as far as his line delivery for the character, I don't know. It was really, really painful.
I would agree with you. I think his voice does not work for me. Like when I hear his voice,
No.
I just think of David Harper. I just eh, I don't know. So I do agree. I think he's definitely the weakest voice acting in the show so far,
Yes.
or at least the most jarring. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's bad, um, but it does not 100% work for me. Where it does kind of throw me off, like you
Yeah.
said. But I guess I can just kind of look past it. Um, so I do kind of agree with you there. I think a different voice actor might have been better in this
Yeah.
role.
And I don't think that's a theme with the rest of the voice actors
Mhm.
because Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr., and then Indira Varma as the Bride of Frankenstein, even Sean Gunn who voices GI Robot and
Oh, he
Weasel, like
does.
all of it is
Great.
great,
Yeah.
absolutely great. So it's not a theme, but his line deliveries just made that second episode unbearable for me.
Really? Wow.
Hmm.
Well, it seems like they're setting him up to be more of a main player.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know, maybe it will switch it up a little bit where you don't mind it, or maybe you'll just get used to it or something. Or maybe they'll kill him off. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he can. He's Frankenstein, so
Yeah.
I think he might be in it for the long haul. Um, I will say I did enjoy the backstory with the bride and Frankenstein and kind of the twist. Like I said, I'm not really too familiar with the original subject matter or source material rather. So I don't know if it's I mean, I can't imagine Dr. Frankenstein and the Bride, they get it on in the original Universal Monster movie, you know?
Yeah.
No, I did kinda like that and the jealousy with Frankenstein's monster, Eric, and so that part worked for me, that kinda twist, and how the bride wants nothing to do with the monster,
Hmm.
and then, it's revealed towards the end of the episode, we see kind of a montage of Frankenstein just stalking the bride for like 200 years or whatever, and that worked for me as well. I did enjoy that. I thought the montage was good with the music too. that's something too. I guess I wanted to touch upon is the music. Do you like the music of the show overall?
Yeah, I think it's fitting to like the obscurity of the characters and the story. Like every time you hear music, it kind of just sounds weird, which is
Yeah.
really fitting for the tone of the show.
Yeah. I don't love the music necessarily. I think it I don't know, I'm kinda indifferent about it, like, I don't hate it, I don't love it, I think it's okay.
Hmm.
It kinda reminds me of, like, a Mexican music for some reason. I don't know if that's what they're going for, but that's just kinda what I think of when I hear the theme song for the show, so, I don't know, I thought it was just okay. I think they did take a big swing with it, and I don't think it 100% lands what they were going for with the theme. But anyhow, yeah, so the backstory with the bride and the monster, like I said, that kinda worked for me. The opening I thought was a little slow, and I will say I do think this is definitely the weaker of the 2 episodes for sure. I think this one, the way it's cut together, it feels all over the place at times, you know, with them cutting back and forth between present day and then also with the bride's backstory. I just don't think that worked for me necessarily the way it was chopped
Hmm.
up. Um, but overall, I mean, I did like the bride's backstory and kind of the twist with it. That works for me from a story standpoint. Um, and let's see what else. Let's the fight between the bride and Cersei. I thought that was pretty good. And the
Yeah.
bride, I mean, we see that she can kick some ass.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then also we get to see Cersei and kind of her powers. Finally, I'm not too familiar with that character from the comics, you know. So that was kind of cool to see what she's capable of. Um, yeah, and it seems like you know they're setting her up to be the big bad of season one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a because I Cersei is not as obscure as the creature commandos, but like,
Right.
nobody's a Cersei villain fan out there, so it's again a little bit of a deep cut, which James Gunn is very clearly going for. Um,
Yeah.
but while we are
Absolutely.
on the subject of episode two,
Mhm.
that's another thing I kind of want to talk about. Another aspect that I kind of didn't enjoy, which was the um, romance between the bride and the doctor, which you already kind of mentioned on.
Yep.
Felt a little creepy for me personally. But another thing that I feel like kind of just missed the mark for me was the bathroom scene with Rick Flag Sr.
And the princess. Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like that was super drawn out. I don't know. It just really missed
It
the target as far as comedic relief for me.
it is definitely played for laughs, and like you said, I do think it's a little drawn out with
Yeah.
Weasel, GI Robot, and then also Doctor Phosphorus just standing outside the door, and the night or whatever. You know, it that does feel a little drawn out. So I don't know. I think that scene overall, the bathroom scene with Rick Flag Sr. and the Princess Alana, I think that works for me as well overall. But I think that kind of joke towards the end of that scene does stay overstay its welcome, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think as we dive deeper into the series, we're going to learn a lot more about the princess because
Yeah,
I mean, she kind of had some like you know, predatory aspects to her character, especially when it came to Rick Flag Sr. So I think that's
a little
going
bit. Yeah,
to come to play. Like I think we're gonna find out that she has, a little bit of a checkered past or something that is just not all there because I felt that was really forward and I wasn't sure if like it was just James Gunn, just trying to get his freak on or if it was, we were seeing parts of the character kind of shine through.
right. Yeah, that's interesting. I saw a theory. I think it was today that they think the princess is going to be revealed to be the big bad of
Oh.
the season one. And I mean, I think from what we've seen so far, And then what's kind of set up. I think it would work with that being the reveal. I don't know what her motivations would be other than just taking over the country.
Mhm.
Um, and we see the queen who is very much not there. I mean,
Mhm.
she's kind of waiting to die, and so maybe there's something with that where the queen is really the one in charge still, and the princess is either taking advantage of that, or maybe just not even the princess. She just kind of infiltrated the country. So I don't know. I think that would be an interesting kind of twist. I mean, we'll see where that plays out. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't think Cersei's a strong enough villain to, kind of be the big bad that leads to the
Mhm.
climax and everything like that. So I do think she's going to need some type of supporting cast as far as like being the antagonistic force, if you will, that they have to take out. So I think if I had to put my money on it, that's probably what I see coming, but I don't want to be right because then that would kind of make me feel like it's easy to guess and a little
Predictable. Yeah,
predictable. So
yeah.
so yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either.
What would you say? What would you give it for a rating, 1 through 10?
Probably like a 4.
Really? Okay. I
Yeah.
would probably I would probably give it maybe like a 7.5. Overall, I did enjoy it. I think the editing wasn't too great. It
Mhm,
felt it felt like I said all over the place and too jumpy. Um, but and also I suppose with David Harbour as the voice acting, that doesn't he's definitely the weakest so far.
yeah.
But other than that, I really enjoyed this episode. It was a fun episode. I really enjoyed the fight between the bride and then Cersei in the castle. I thought that was pretty well done. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, I'm excited to see where the show goes. I'll definitely watch it weekly
Mhm,
as it comes out. I think it comes out Thursdays at 9, or I
yep.
think it's Thursdays, but I don't know if it's 9 for sure. Um, And I'm excited to kind of see where Frankenstein monster, Eric, where how he comes back into play, because it seems like he kind of stopped following the bride. He just kind of gave up. I mean, we're introduced to him in present day. It looks like he's like on a yacht with a bunch of models, so seems like
Yeah,
he's doing all right. So I'll be interested to see where that goes, and
yeah.
how if he's going to be maybe another bad guy, if he's going to join the team or what, and ultimately where the bride and in his relationship goes.
Yeah, I would have my money on him probably joining the team,
Yeah.
and I feel like, he may have kind of given up on her because of whatever put the bride in custody, which I hope
Okay.
we get the story behind, so we can kind of know more about the character.
Yeah.
Because she is gonna be the main focus. I mean, it's very clear it's gonna be like the Bride and Frankenstein and probably Rick Flag and the Creature Commandos kind of doing their own things. So I hope we get more as far as those 2 and the backstory and what took place and everything like that.
Yeah. I wonder why they didn't show her being captured. Because I feel like you're right. Looking back, I feel like that is kind of an important piece of the puzzle that
Mhm.
we still need, because that would explain why he would ultimately stop kind of going after her and whatnot. Um, so I don't know. I feel like we should have gotten that piece of information as well in the backstory. And I think they could have easily added that in the montage towards the end.
It would be interesting if, like, he dives into the idea of, like, maybe she allowed herself to be captured to escape Frankenstein. I think that
Okay.
would be a pretty layered thing where, like, we definitely learn more. She's not a bad person. She just kind of did something to get captured type of thing. But, I mean, I think we need really backstories on everybody,
Yeah.
I do agree with you, like, the introduction to the characters, I think it would have been really awesome to kind of get a, uh, dossier type of thing where we get, what they did, their abilities, which we kind of get, but it's at a, rapid pace. So I
Mhm.
would have liked like maybe just a designated mini scene to each one of those characters. So we at least learned what they did, what happened, if they're actually good or bad or what, but I'm sure we will find that out over time. He wants you to commit to the show, I guess, to find out.
Yeah, yeah, I think we will learn more and more about their backstories. Maybe the only one I could see us maybe skipping over would be, like, Weasel and GI
Hmm.
Robot. I don't know, I don't know there's a whole lot to tell with their backstories, you know?
Yeah.
Um, maybe there is, I hope I'm wrong and we do kinda dive into their backstories and it's interesting and whatnot. Um, and I don't know, it will be interesting to see if each episode focuses on a different character. Right, with I feel like episode 1, it really focused on the main cast and maybe Rick Flag Senior more so.
Hmm.
This one is clearly, the bride focused, um, so it
Yep.
will be interesting to see if each episode just dives into one of the characters' backstories, and that's how we learn about them. So so I don't know, what would you give it overall? Like, are you and I can kinda guess, are you gonna watch the rest of the season? Are you gonna wait to binge it? Are you gonna watch it weekly? Where are you at with that?
I mean, I'll probably watch it weekly. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
usually in for anything comic related, and
sure.
I'm not exactly watching anything currently, so
Don't work it
I'll
out.
for sure tune in and see what it's about and keep getting a taste of James Gunn's flavor as far as this universe goes.
Sweet. Sweet. Yeah, no, I think I will too. Um, and I think kind of from what I gather, I definitely enjoyed the show a bit more.
Hmm.
So, and I really like the characters and whatnot. And I'm excited to see where the season takes us. So I will definitely watch it weekly. Um, So yeah, do you want to see any of the characters in live action? Do you think we'll see any of the characters in live action? That's something James Gunn has kind of hinted at, if you will, that there's going to be
Yeah,
crossover between like all sorts of media. But I think besides comic,
I mean, I definitely think we are at least gonna see Amanda Waller, no matter what. So
for sure.
that's gonna be a character we'll see live action. I could definitely see Rick Flag Sr. and Dr.
Yep.
Phosphorus. Now, do I need to see any of the other characters? Probably not. I'm not going to lose sleep over if I don't see, Batman take on the Weasel. But in the same breath, I think it would be almost that initial phase of the MCU type of itch that gets to get scratched if we start seeing more and more characters kind of cross over in a well done way, not where they're just shoehorned into a movie or by any means, but it would be cool to kind of see them translate into the live action in some form or fashion. But what do you
Yeah.
think as far as them crossing over?
So I believe, and well, let's see. So Perry Comics joined. Hey Perry, how are you? And then we have a fifth of Jack Gaming. It is going good. How are you?
Hello,
I
Adam.
hope work was good. Um, Yeah, so I think with Superman, Rick Flag Senior is already there's already set photos of the voice actor on set playing him. So I think we're definitely going to see that his character, Amanda Waller, yeah, for sure. I think she's getting her own show as well. If I'm not mistaken. Let me try to look that up.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I do remember Rick Flag Sr.'s character in
yep,
the set photos of him being arrested and stuff like that, right?
yep, yep.
Yep.
So he's definitely going to be in the show. I mean, the Superman movie. I wouldn't be surprised if Amanda Waller makes an appearance. And just looking it up now, it does look like Amanda Waller is getting her own limited TV show. So,
Mhm.
and I don't think there's any release or anything like that yet. But so, and I imagine so we have that to look forward to. Um, And I would like to see the other characters from the Creature Commandos show up. I think it would be interesting. Um, or even show up in like video games. I know James Gunn has talked about that as well, video games crossing over and whatnot, which seems very ambitious, but it would
Yeah.
be awesome if he could pull it off. And so yeah, I would definitely want to see some of these characters pop up in live action. I think Dr. Phosphorus would be cool to see in live action.
Yeah.
And then also the Bride. I would like to see the Bride in live action. I think that'd be awesome. Let's see. Fifth Jack better that I get to kick up my feet. Yes, absolutely. So I don't know. Overall, I would say I enjoyed this show. I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, it's I feel optimistic about the DCU, James Gunn's new universe. This is, I will say, kind of a weird start to the
Yeah.
universe or introduction to it. I originally thought this show was coming out after Superman.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of surprised that it didn't because I don't know. I just feel like it's a weird place to start.
Yeah.
But it is good overall. I enjoyed it.
I feel like he's attempting um to capture lightning in the bottle again with what he did with the Guardians. I mean,
Hmm.
any comic reader can tell you the Guardians were not as prominent as they are today. James Gunn had a big hand to play into their popularity and comics and
Right.
everything like that. I don't see that happening with the Creature Commandos. I do know they got a issue series that came out before the show aired. I want to say it
Oh, okay.
wrapped up now, but that's what he's trying to do. It's very, very evident that he's trying to bring the characters out of the woodwork and obscurity and make them a household name. But I don't think it's going to happen with these characters.
Yeah, that's interesting. I definitely I agree with you. I don't think it will be to the level of the Guardians of the Galaxy as far as them being popular now. Um, but I don't know. It will be interesting to see, I guess, where these characters end up by the end of the season, and also maybe by the end of like chapter one, as he's calling it, of the DCU.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, I could see some of these characters not making it out of the first season for sure. Um, I think it helps that they're more unknown.
Thank you, James.
Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I think it will be interesting to see where these characters end up. James says Creature Commandos comic is still coming out. Creature Commandos number 3 just came out. Interesting. James, who's the writer on that? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, because I know the trade comes out in like June or July or something.
Okay.
But I have no idea who's writing it. Didn't even know it was coming out. I am not the Creature Commandos guy. Um, but I mean, they're trying. They knew the show's coming out and they wanted to put out a comic book. But it ain't gonna hit.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of seeming that way almost. I I will say I think it's in advantage to doing weekly releases for the show. Although I don't like it personally, I'd much rather have it be all episodes out right now. But I think it works from a business standpoint, where each week you kind of create an event of the show
Hmm.
being released. Um, we kind of see that with like The Boys. Obviously, I think The Boys is much better,
Yeah.
and much more popular overall. Um, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out and to see if these characters do hit with the mainstream. Because I would say right now with the premiere and these 2 episodes out, I don't think it does. I don't think it does.
No.
But there is still more season to go, so we'll see. Fifth of Jack Gaming. Gunn really put Guardians on the map. They were very low key until the first movie hit. Yeah, no, that's what I hear. James, the writer is David. I don't know how to say that last name. Do you know how to say that last
That's
name?
Dasmalachian. I don't know.
That sounds
Plays
right.
Polka Dot Man.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, huge comic book nerd, has a wicked collection. So um, pretty
That's
interesting.
interesting.
He's broke into comics, and I think this is like his second DC work because I think he did something with like Bizarro or something like that. If I'm,
Let's see.
scratching a deep crevice of my brain trying to pull that, but yeah, he's a crazy comic book fan. Like, has awesome stuff. Just watched a video on him actually, like 3 days ago or something.
A YouTube video?
Yeah, they were
Okay,
interviewing him.
interesting. So from what I can see, it looks like he has a series through Dark Horse. I don't know what's still going on. It looks like Count Crowley. I think that's how you say it. Very much in line with Universal Monsters and whatnot. It seems like it's definitely paying homage to that. And then also too, it looks like he wrote DC Horror Presents this year, which I've not read or really heard much about. So interesting.
And Knights versus Samurai, which is
Let's see
probably
that.
the coolest title ever for a comic book. That's an Image title though.
That is a cool title.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Okay, great. So this is the video you were talking about. So he has just a big collection. Actually, you know what?
Yep.
Sidebar. I just watched him in this movie, Late Night with the Devil. Have you seen that?
Late Night with the Devil. That sounds familiar. I may have watched it.
It's good. I think it came out last year in the springtime.
Let's see a movie poster.
It's a good watch around the Halloween season. So I'd wait till next year to check it out. But it's super good. It's a good horror flick. They use practical effects, which I think works really well. So I would check that movie out if you're into that type of thing. And
Yeah, I saw the movie poster. Definitely seems like something that looks creepy as heck.
it is a little creepy at times.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when we think of back to David Dasmalchian, or not to butcher his name completely, but he is in so many superhero movies, which I learned from that video that James shared. I mean, he's in Suicide Squad. He voices characters in DC animated films. He was also in Dark Knight during the Nolan verse. Like, he played like a
That's
side
right.
character. Ant-Man and Wasp and Ant-Man and Quantumania. It's just crazy how many superhero movies he's been in, which, if you're a nerd, I mean, that's the dream.
That is the dream. Absolutely. Yeah, I guess he's a big comic nerd, which is awesome. Yeah, he's been in Ant-Man, he was in the Dark Knight. He was in Ant-Man Quantumanium, which I don't remember him being in. He was in Blade Runner 2049 too. I know that's not comic booky, but that's kind of nerdy. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I love Blade Runner.
Such a good movie. It looks like too he voiced someone in the Batman Long Halloween animated movie. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's always
definitely.
good to see nerds break into comics because it's like you don't want anybody else writing comics other than comic book nerds. So it's pretty wicked to see that type of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has been interesting too. I feel like recently there's been a lot of actors who portray these characters and then they'll do like a comic run. Paul Dano with the Riddler.
Yep.
And then we have the Miss Marvel actor. She wrote a comic run for that character, which I've not read. I think I heard it was good though.
She's a nerd too. She's really into
yeah,
comics also.
yeah. So that's awesome. I think that's great having some of these actors who really love the character, and I mean they spend so much time with that character, and they know the fundamentals of that character most likely. So I think it makes perfect sense that some of these actors decide to write some comics, and it's awesome. I'm all.
I mean, we are seeing Hollywood kind of blur that line. I mean, Dano or Dano. He was just
Daniel, yeah,
one, but Emily Clark wrote a comic. Whoopi Goldberg, obviously Keanu Reeves with Berserker.
that's
So it's
right.
like there's a lot of Hollywood big names breaking into comics and actually contributing, which is weird because we were once in a time where like if you like comics, you're kind of like an outcast, but now it's like such an in thing. But
Right.
um, it's pretty cool to see that. I like seeing that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. And I think it just goes to show how well the comic industry is doing as a whole right now,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
which is awesome. I love to see it. So, so yeah, I don't know. I think I do kind of want to check out that Creature Commando series now, though, but written by
Yeah.
the David guy. That seems
I kind of
interesting.
planned to pick it up too. Once I saw that the trade was coming out, and I was like, that might be a good way to get a taste for these characters in comic book format, at least.
I just haven't heard much about it. Like, I didn't even know it was a thing till uh, today. But I guess it's not surprising. I don't know.
Well,
I don't keep
Creature
up with
Commandos. I mean, I don't know anybody that is like a Creature Commandos fan. I mean, these
yeah,
are very very small name characters, so you not knowing is it's pretty on par. I mean,
yeah,
nobody probably knew.
yeah. But I may check out the comic run if once it's fully collected in the trade. Maybe I'll buy it.
Mhm.
If you review it and you say it's actually pretty good, maybe I'll check it out. We'll see. We'll have to see. But yeah, I don't know. I guess overall with the show, I don't know. I don't really have any other thoughts on it other than I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed. I thought the whole series was going to come out. I didn't know it was going to
Yeah.
be episodic. So I was kind of bummed about that, but at the same time I kind of like that because it's like something to look forward to during the
Each
week,
week.
but
Yeah.
I
I
wish
don't
they just released it all.
I don't know with this type of show if it benefits it much though. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't either. Yeah.
like I think with the Penguin, it absolutely did because
Hmm.
each episode's an hour long. We get a good chunk of the story, and those episodes are very dense too. So you have the week to kind of marinate with it,
Yeah.
digest it, and then the next episode comes out. But with this, I just feel like it might have benefited from just the entire season coming out at once.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a cast or a team, a superhero team that not a lot of people know about. So I think a lot of people would be willing to give it more of a shot if they could potentially binge the entire series. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
You're right. I mean, it's not like the Penguin where
Right.
there's so many layers, like you don't need to
Yeah.
watch an episode and be like, what was the deep meaning behind Rick Flag,
You're
you
right.
know, fornicating with the princess? Like there's not much there. It's all face value, surface level.
Yeah.
So they should have just dropped everything, let everybody get the entire James Gunn experience, and
Yeah.
then moved on from there.
Yeah. How do you feel about these streaming shows now switching to weekly releases? Because it's kind of a common trend. I would say
Yeah.
really with Netflix, we haven't seen that much. But with all the others, I feel like it's very much a common thing now.
I'm I'm 50-50 on it.
Yeah.
So when it was something I was really excited about, I was really pumped because when the whole season was released, because it was like, oh, I'm going to watch this in one sitting type of thing. But
Yeah.
there is something kind of nostalgia or nostalgic about like, oh, I got to wait until Thursday to see what's happening with the Creature Commandos type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm 50-50 on it, but I do think it depends on the series. I think
Mhm.
like a series like Penguin or Game of Thrones or House of Dragons, stuff that is so dense and layered and those are the type of series where you want to release them episodically. You want to have like an after show, what they used to do back in the day, like the talk show for the show type of
Yeah.
thing. And that those are the series you want that. But like Creature Commandos isn't that, it's you release it, you watch it, you digest it, and you get ready for the next thing. I don't think there needs to be really anything more than that as far as like thought process of how it releases and stuff. But
Yeah. No, I agree with you totally. I think with some shows it works, with others not so much, and I think this is definitely one that it would have benefited from a full release, you know.
yeah,
And I feel like even with a show like Invincible too, where they do weekly releases on Amazon, that's another one where I feel like the whole season should just drop at once, you
yeah,
know. Um, a show like The Penguin or like The Boys, I think that's a great example. Um, The Boys is a heavy show too at times where you
hmm
know it can some scenes kind of gross you out, make you feel icky and gross. So you don't want to necessarily. That's not a bingeable show, if you will. You
yeah,
know, and that really benefits from the weekly release. And I think a lot of these streaming services and HBO, I mean, HBO's been doing it forever, the weekly releases with it, you know. But I think a lot of these shows are trying to create an event, each weekday this show comes out each week with a new episode. And I think, the Penguin did that successfully where, people, at work would be talking about it at the the water cooler or whatever. Right.
yeah,
And that's definitely what the streaming services want to try to achieve is that word of mouth as well, not only online and social media. Um, but I don't know. I think I just don't know if it works with this show. I don't see the benefit of it really. And I think I like you said. I mean, it's not a very thought provoking show, right? Let's be
no,
honest. It's not. It's a
yeah.
great show. At least I like it. Um, but it's not something where it's like, oh, I gotta take a step back and think about that for a sec,
I
right?
think with like series where you do like episodic releases like that, like you do need that thought provoking nature of the show to kind of
Yep.
let it kind of sit in people's mouths and they still like the taste,
Yep.
But like when you look at Creature Commandos and Invincible, which Invincible is leaps and bounds better than Creature Commandos, but if you look at it as like a individualistic, picture, these are hit or miss for people, like there are
Yep.
people out there that don't like Invincible, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't like Creature Commandos. And when you release it episodic, you're giving people chances to jump out, and
Yep.
say, this ain't for me. But if you drop the whole series, then people are like, okay, well, I'm already 2 episodes in, I'm going to finish it,
Yeah.
So I think these animated shows and stuff, like those are the ones where they really need to put everything out and just let people get the big picture and invest their time and then kind of be like, whoops, I finished the whole series.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree totally. And I don't know. I just had a thought and I lost it. But anyhow, I
I do want to ask you, what did
yeah.
you feel about the length of each episode? Well, like what's your opinion? Did you feel like it was well paced? Do you feel like it was long enough, too short? What did you
I
think?
I I think it was long enough. I don't think it was too short or too long either episodes. I think it was yeah, I think it was, I guess, well paced.
Mhm.
Um, maybe the second episode, I thought it started out a bit slow, and then maybe halfway through it picked up. But like I guess going back to my point of how it's kind of chopped together, um, I think it that affects it. But I don't know. If anything, I guess it maybe they were a bit too short for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
But yeah, I guess with this type of show, this animated kind of funny. Well, it's not super funny, but it's definitely funny at times. This type of show, I'm kind of used to that though, and expect it. I don't
yeah,
expect a hour long episode or anything like that.
yeah. I think there was some aspects like where some extra time probably would have benefited it. Like,
Sure.
I do think the entire like storytelling pace is already really, really fast. So when you put on top of that a pretty short episode, like it just feels like you blink and the episode's over, which I felt like was my experience with both episodes. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I started it and it was over. And that's
Yeah.
just how both of those episodes went. So I feel like there should be some extra minutes there where we maybe could have got more story elements, got more invested in these characters, got more
Yeah.
backstory, stuff like that. But I do agree that it was way too fast. I mean, every episode was a blink and a half, and it was over.
Yeah. I guess it almost feels like a bite size like candy bar, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it goes back to kind of our point where it really should be the entire season at once, where,
yeah,
I could sit down and watch 3 of these episodes or 4 and whatnot and enjoy it more. But now I gotta wait weekly for half an hour of content. So I guess I can totally see some people kind of jumping off the ship and not going back to it or waiting till the entire season's out to binge it. Um, and I don't know. I don't know how that's going to affect the show in the long run from a performance standpoint.
yeah.
You
I
know?
I I mainly have that criticism too, like because I'm sure if anybody watches this, they're going to be like, "This guy didn't even really like the show. Why does he want more time?" And I think it's just my critique of that comes from that this is our first initiation into the James Gunn universe. So,
Sure.
I feel like he should really be trying to win us over. He should really be trying to make us care about these characters, more time with these characters where, I can feel a little bit more confident going into it because right now I'm still confident, I'm still hopeful, but like it definitely knocked me down a little bit, like a peg and a
Yeah.
half, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense, that you still have some worries about the universe going forward
Yeah.
and James Gunn's vision. And yeah, no, I think that's totally valid. It makes a lot of sense. And let's see, a Fifth of Jack Gaming. Hey, I get it. I did that with X-Men 97. Wait each week for a new episode, but I was pumped to watch it as soon as I could. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I will definitely watch it each week, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a casual viewer like most people are.
Hmm.
I think at the casual viewer, I don't know if we've got enough for them to keep coming back week after week, you know?
No,
And
no.
maybe they dropped just 3 episodes. Maybe that would have helped. I don't know.
I mean, I guess the discussion that's like really on the table is the fact that it's Creature Commandos, right? Like if this was a
Right.
Batman series and he was releasing it episodic, like people would come back,
Yeah.
like that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
almost a guarantee, but it's just to do that with the Creature Commandos and also an animated series, which animation's hit or miss with, the consumer base
Yeah, the
anyway.
general audience. Yeah, for sure.
So, that it's a ballsy move, but I'm interested to see the views and the what has been generated once it's all said and done and this show's over.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I imagine if it underperforms what Warner Brothers or DC Studios wanted it to, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't even see any sort of numbers because I think with like streaming services, it's different from cable network, right, where
Mhm.
they have to report the ratings. With streaming services, it's kind of up in the air still. There's no like regulations or anything like that for reporting the ratings. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see if anything like that drops from James
Yeah,
Gunn. Um, but it is interesting because there was a Batman animated show that the full season dropped on Amazon Prime. I think
mhm,
that came out over the summer. I can't remember
yeah,
exactly when. Um, and I feel like they maybe could have done a weekly release just because it's kind of like what you said. It's Batman. It's a huge property. People,
yeah,
regardless, will come back to it week after week. Whereas here it's totally fresh, totally new. which for the general audience, that may not be super appealing for them to commit to going back to it week after
I
week.
would even dare say even more than the general audience because, like I said, I mean, even for comic book readers, like intense comic book readers, the Creature Commandos is obscure. So like he's
Yeah,
trying to appeal the fans and the non-fans with this project. So
yeah,
I mean, you got to make sure you're doing everything right in
for
that
sure.
regard.
It does seem, and I feel like we touched upon this too, but it does seem like a strange start to this universe.
Hmm. Yes.
And what you said, where it was, this is kind of like an appetizer to the full entree. That's a good way to characterize it, I would say, but it's still, it just feels like a weird intro to this new
Yeah.
universe,
Yeah.
supposedly, but then there's still ties to Peacemaker and Suicide Squad. So it does feel a little messy at times, I will say. James says we will see numbers if the series makes it on the Nelson streaming chat. Okay, interesting. I did not know that streaming services had to report to the Nelson streaming. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Fifth Jack. It's the old bat craze. I will say that. Did you watch that animated show, the Batman one that just came out?
No, I think
It was pretty
last
good.
time we live streamed, I think we talked about it, but yeah, I haven't checked it out yet. No.
It, uh, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I didn't really grow up with Batman like the animated series,
Hmm.
but I imagine if you did, and you're a fan of that and nostalgic, I think it will definitely kind of scratch that itch. Because I did enjoy it, and this is coming from someone who's not really nostalgic for the Batman animated series at all.
Yeah.
Um, that could be something we talk about eventually too, because I'd rewatch it. It was quick watch. I watched it like I don't mean like within like 2 days, maybe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a very quick watch.
Yeah, I'll watch
Um,
it. I'm definitely Batmaned out, like major Batmaned out, but that's just a me thing, which
I
I'll have
get
to
that.
outgrow at some
I
point
I
because
get
he's
that too.
everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, I get that, and it's interesting too to see because James Gunn he came out in an interview saying the Batman script for DCU is not ready, and he's not going to move forward with that until he feels that it's ready, which is nice. It's kind of refreshing that to know that he's just not going to pump a Batman movie out just because it's Batman, and just because he knows it might do well at the box office. So that's kind of refreshing to see from the studio standpoint as well.
Well, that may be him a little self-aware too, where it's like, hey, if you put out a bad Batman film, this whole thing's done. Curtains closed. Nobody's
Yeah,
going to tune in. You cannot mess up Batman. And I'm not a Batman fan. I'm not pointing that gun. I'm just saying that's how it work. And
I
so
agree.
maybe he's like, I gotta make sure this thing is like a 10 out of 10 before I
Yeah,
even touch a camera.
yeah, and I don't know. Well, I don't know if he's gonna direct it or anything. I think well, he might. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but from that interview, I got the sense that he's gonna have someone else take care of it. Um,
I hope so.
yeah, and I think that'd be pretty cool. And I wonder who he's gonna choose as directors. Like if he's gonna choose someone already established, or I feel like with Marvel, the MCU, what they have done, not all the time. We have like Sam Raimi pop in, and James Gunn, is a good
Mhm.
example as well of MCU hires directors that are pretty much unknowns, and they do that because they can pretty much just control and have their final say in the product,
Yeah.
which I don't. As a consumer now, like I don't find that too appealing. I want to watch something that's not just a repeat of the last movie, just with a different brand over it.
Mhm.
Um, so I am optimistic of seeing what James Gunn does with the DC characters overall. Still, after watching this, but I am kind of siding with you where I'm not 100% sold that it's going to stick the landing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I do like, I mean, touching back on that point where you're saying him or Marvel picking small names, you know, and they picked small name actors too, you know,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think because that sounds crazy to say now because everyone's like, "Oh, I know Chris Hemsworth, that's Thor," you know, but before, like, I
Back
mean, he
then,
was
yeah,
nobody. Nobody.
yeah,
Robert Downey Jr. was fresh out of jail. Chris Hemsworth was, you know, a nobody. Chris Evans was a rom-com actor. You know, these people were nobodies, you know,
yeah.
and I do think he's going that approach though, because
Oh, for sure.
obviously the focus of Creature Commandos right now, which is super obscure. David Cornsweet, Superman,
Yep,
who's a super unknown actor.
yep.
So I hope to see that. I hope he does allow some uh, not as established names come in and kind of stretch their creative limbs and tell the stories that they want to.
I agree completely, and I think he realizes that to a certain extent that,
Mhm.
this universe, it can't just be kind of a repeat of the MCU,
Yeah.
and I believe he's also said in interviews that it's not like each movie's not gonna, be a building block to another movie, kinda how that we see with the MCU,
Yep. Yep.
and there's not I believe he said this, and James, you may know in the chat here that there's not going to be a big bad really of chapter one at least. Each story is going to be its really own story, you
Hmm.
know. And I find that super interesting because it seems like we kind of get that with this show as well. And what's said about Superman so far is that this universe is already built, that's there's already heroes. And we see that kind of with set leaks from the Superman movie with the JLA, I believe, which I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty
Hmm.
cool. And we're seeing Superman. It seems like it's going to kind of be an origin story. Like he's definitely going to be the new face on the block. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's going to be a rehashing of the Superman's origin story by any means because
Now,
everyone knows that.
what one thing he has said, which I would be interested to hear your thoughts on, is
Mhm.
he mentioned that his, I guess, design of this universe, people keep thinking it's like the MCU, but he said it's more like these Star Wars movies more than it's like the MCU. So I am
Interesting.
curious what you think, like what is your interpretation of him saying that?
I don't know how to feel like about that. I guess with the Star Wars films, it seems like maybe what he's getting at with that is that it's just set in the universe, and we see different stories told and whatnot. But it's still it feels like Star Wars, right?
Hmm.
But some of the stories don't connect whatsoever, really. So I guess if that's the point he's trying to get across, then I think that's awesome. I think that's great. I feel like with the MCU, I definitely feel like each movie, no matter the hero, it was kind of the next chapter within the MCU as a whole.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that 100% works, at least anymore, especially after Endgame. I think audiences are kind of tired of that. And I think I think the Marvel Studios kind of sees it too because I don't, the box office numbers have not been what they were like before Endgame, and a lot of that's probably because of COVID too. But
Hmm.
we see that with even with like the streaming services, like it's just too much sometimes, and general audiences don't necessarily want to have to do a bunch of homework and watch these superhero shows that they have no interest in that superhero just to watch the next event movie and understand it. So James Gunn is essentially saying that that won't be the case. That each superhero show and superhero movie and everything like that is going to be its own separate story, just held within the DCU. Um, I think that'd be pretty cool. I guess it'd be interesting to see how he does. Those bigger event movies. Like Avengers Endgame, um,
Yeah.
and see how that's played out. Because especially with like Infinity War, you can go into that movie not watching any of the other Marvel movies, but a lot of it's going to it's not you're not gonna enjoy it as much, I guess. You're not gonna
Yeah.
appreciate it as much. And I feel like with Infinity War and Endgame especially, you definitely have to watch at least a majority of those MCU movies to fully get the experience of the film.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so so I don't know. I think that's awesome. That
Yeah, how I interpreted it, which this was before watching Creature Commandos, so I don't know how well it stands on its 2 feet, at least the theory.
Mhm.
But when he said that, I took it as he was going to be starting at the end and working his way back to the beginning. Which
Interesting.
now watching Creature Commandos, I feel like is not the case, but that's how I took it. And I feel like that would be a really interesting concept for a universe in superhero movies, which I kind of wish he did go that route because I feel like it's very different and it would not be the same linear path that we went
Right.
on with the MCU.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see aspects of that for sure, where we kind of jump back to the beginning or the middle, and like I think Lanterns, that HBO show that they're working on now, maybe that's kind of a good example where we have John Stewart, and then we also have Hal Jordan working together.
Hmm.
I'm sure we're gonna get backstory of Hal Jordan and whatnot. I don't know where that character will go after, um, but I think in that show, it's definitely going to maybe work a little bit backwards, kind of like what you're saying, to get that full uh, Green Lantern experience, at least from the character of Hal Jordan. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Ideally, I would like to have a DC universe where if the Justice League movies coming out, and I haven't watched all of the shows and all the movies, which I probably will, but general audience, they may not. I can go see that Justice League movie and not feel like I'm missing a key part of it.
Hmm.
But it's gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be tough for the I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because if you have kind of a not so commercial character like I don't know, maybe like Shazam or one of the lesser leaguers, the general audiences may not really know that character unless they see the future film, or I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
previous film. So I don't know. It will be interesting to see how he tackles that. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think you do need to approach it in a route where you're not completely abandoning like the roots and origins and introductions of these characters. But I also don't think like some characters need to be, beat nonstop over our heads. Like, oh, they're
Mhm.
in this movie, they're in this movie, they're in this movie, which we kind of branched into in the MCU at a certain point,
Sure.
especially like modern MCU.
Yeah,
But I do think like those earlier like phase 1, phase 2 MCU movies, I mean, I do think they stand on their own 2 feet where
I think so too.
you
Yeah,
you don't need to know what's going on. So I feel like even if he kind of takes some of that blueprint and incorporates it where JLA can stand, it's a JLA movie, it can stand on its 2 feet, it's a good movie, and so can Batman, so can Superman.
sure.
I think that would be a good aspect to apply where you were kind of saying that, which I do agree, and I hope he goes that way.
Yeah, yeah. It is interesting, I guess, to kind of compare where the MCU started and where it's at now.
Hmm.
Where you're right. All those movies, even like Avengers. If you just went into Avengers without watching any of the Marvel movies before it,
Hmm.
you'd still get the full story, and you would still appreciate it. Um, but maybe you'd miss some things, but really not a whole lot. Like I feel like that was a really well done film.
Yeah.
Um, for like a entourage of superheroes all coming together.
Hmm.
Um, where I feel like Marvel is where it's at now is you really almost do need to watch every installment of a new Marvel property, and that's through Disney Plus, and then also with theater. And I feel like the general audience is just not too invested in it now, where they're going to commit that much time to it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think James Gunn, he sees that. I think he sees that, and I think he's going to try to curve that, if you will. So I think it will be interesting to see where these first few films and TV shows, how they fit together, and then also the first kind of event film, if you will, whether it be like a Justice League movie or whatever, how that will how that will play out,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then thereafter too. I don't know. I don't know if it will, if it will, if James Gunn will just build off of that, and then you'll need to have the knowledge of the other films, or if each film after that is still just going to be kind of its own separate thing, just in this universe. Um, I don't know.
Yeah. Because I often thought the name of the chapter was, which is Gods and Monsters, it
Yeah.
was kind of referencing more or less a storyline, but I think it's a little bit more on the nose. Like I actually think he's just saying that this chapter is about gods with Superman, lanterns, and monsters with creature commandos and the dark filth characters and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's more or less what he's saying. So I don't think the name of the chapter can be as read into.
Right.
Um, so I don't really know
Interesting.
where he's going. I hope he kind of gives more hints as time goes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I did hear that too, that the title was in reference to, I think, New Frontier, right, in that storyline.
I know it's a Justice League story. That's what
I
I'm
think
referencing.
I
Maybe I'm
believe
missing that mark.
I believe there's a chapter in New Frontier titled Gods and Monsters. I think it's like the last chapter. James, maybe or Fifth of Jack or anyone. Um, but regardless, do you want there to be kind of a big bad of this first chapter, and for the final film in the chapter to have all these heroes that we've known or gotten to know face this villain, kind of like how the MCU is formatted?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of I don't know, a simple-minded consumer when it comes to that. I mean, I want a big bad, and I feel
Yeah,
like we got such a flavor or at least a taste of it during Scott Snyder's I guess idea.
sure,
But I want it fully fleshed out and a complete picture at least once. If we abandon the building up to the climax type of thing after, that's fine. But I do want to see it at least once, the build up to obviously like Dark Side, and we get
sure.
that
Yeah.
full storyline told at least once.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it would be cool to see an event movie, and I think we definitely will, whether it be Justice League or whatever. I think we'll absolutely will see that. But it will just be interesting to see how James Gunn approaches, a film like that, uh, compared to the MCU, whether he does kind of do this thing that Marvel did with Phase One, or does his own thing that works as well. But I think ultimately, I don't think I think each installment within this universe is going to stand on its own, and I think that's super important for general audiences now. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
so I think that's going to work in his favor. Let's
So
see, Beyond
we
Comics.
do have a comic book here. So there, I did know about the animated movie, but we have a comic here, which that's the one that I'm referencing.
Uh huh.
But it's Justice League Gods and Monsters. It's by Bruce Timm, J.M. DeMatteis, and Tony Silas.
Okay.
Um, but it is a prequel to the DC Universe animated movie, so that's why
Oh, gotcha.
I was
Interesting.
confusing with that. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Beyond Comics. I just like some consistent and quality DC movies. Now we finally have someone at the helm It's been a mess the last few years. I agree with you there. I just want to see fresh takes with some of these characters, and be introduced to new characters. I think that'd be awesome. So I do agree with you. I just want I I want quality over quantity with this universe. And the MCU, I think, has definitely done quantity over quality as of late.
Mhm.
And I think it's hurt the MCU big time, big time.
You
So
are
I
also correct, by the way. Chapter 4 of New
oh,
Frontier, Gods and
New Frontier.
Monsters.
Yeah, I saw some video theorizing that the big bad in New Frontier, which I can't remember the big bad's name now. But the big floating island thing,
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
That was gonna be the big bad the of the phase one or whatever. I don't
I
know if that's gonna
mean,
be maybe.
New Frontier is a great blueprint for, passing on into the next phase. I mean, New
Sure.
Frontier is all about the passing of old guard to new guard. So I
Yeah, yeah.
mean, if he went that route and kind of mirrored that story in a film format, I mean, that would be pretty intelligent. That would be a deep cut because again, New Frontier, not a super well known title. I mean, it's a well known title if you read comics, but like other
Yeah.
people that don't read comics don't know about it.
Don't know, yeah. I, also saw a theory with I guess really more specifically with the Superman film that it was gonna be like reverse Kingdom Come, where we're going to be introduced to this world and all the superheroes are going to be more reminiscent of Kingdom Come superheroes, um, like in the New Age or whatever. They're a little corrupt. They're more gray. They're not like Superman, who's just good.
Mhm,
And we're going to be introduced to that world, and then Superman, he's going to be kind of this, like I said, this new face on the block, and he's going to pretty much change the status quo of what it means to be a hero.
mhm.
So I think that'd be kind of cool, like like a reverse Kingdom Come. I think that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't mind that idea. I never know how to feel about the establishment of like Guy Gardner already
Yeah,
existing, Hal Jordan already exists and is old, and I don't know. Like, I when I first heard about it, along with everybody else, like I never really knew how I felt about it, and I still don't. So I guess I just need to wait until I see more
yeah,
and then decide. But right now, I'm like, I kind of hate it, but I kind of get it. So it's just, I don't know. I'm indifferent.
I get that. I get that for sure. Especially, I feel like you're much more of a superhero fan than me. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely love these characters and whatnot, but I think you're on a different playing field than me at times with DC and Marvel. So, I guess for me, coming at it more in lines with a casual viewer, which I wouldn't say I am. I definitely have a pretty extensive knowledge on both universes, but for me, it just seems more appealing having this world kind of already built, and established, and then Superman kind of being the new face on the block.
Yeah.
Let's see. Beyond comics, which of the currently announced projects are you most excited for? I'm really looking forward to Lanterns and Swamp Thing. Give me one sec, and I'm gonna pull up the graphic for chapter one because I do not know all the projects that are announced.
Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
thought I had it here, but it bait and switched me.
What's that?
I thought I had all of the projects right here, like at my fingertip, and I clicked it and it brought me into something completely different.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right. Give me one sec. I found it. Let me just save it. And
Monsters chapter.
image new tab. Shoot.
Okay, so we got Lantern, Superman, the Authority, the Brave and the Bold, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, Swamp Thing, Waller, Creature Commandos, Paradise Lost, and Booster Gold.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
all over the place.
Let me.
I know which one I'm most excited about, so I'll answer first.
Yeah, go for it.
Assuming this question is to both of us, but Superman all day long, any day of the week, I am here for a Superman movie. I'm very excited for this direction because it seems like the big blue Boy Scout Superman that we all know and love. But my second most excited is Lanterns. I think that is going to be genre bending. I think it's going to be very cosmic odyssey. It's going to be everything that I love about Green Lanterns in a show. So I have high hopes for both of those.
Awesome. I think, and we'll dive more into each of those in a second here. For me personally, I think it would be Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I read that last year around this time, actually, around Christmas time, and I loved it. I just loved it. And so I'm waiting patiently for the absolute whenever that comes out. I don't even think it's announced yet, but I imagine we'll get one. I plan on buying that and getting it. So yeah, definitely. I think Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, then Batman. It's always going to be Batman for me, but I think that's a bit too obvious of a choice. And then I would say Lanterns as well. From the synopsis I've heard, that seemed like a really intriguing show to me.
Yeah.
So I definitely am excited for Lanterns. Booster Gold seems kind of interesting. Swamp Thing as well. Really, all these. The one I'm least excited about, to be honest, is definitely Waller, and then also kind of the Authority. I don't know. From what I know of the Authority, which I have read. Is it Warren Ellis? His run on it. Yeah, I read his run on it. Or part of it at least. And I thought it was okay, but I don't know. It's just the one I'm least excited for, I would say, and Waller. Maybe Paradise Lost too. Yeah, maybe Paradise Lost. What about you guys in the comments? I'm curious as to what your guys' most anticipated projects are. So you said Lanterns as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let me see if I can try to get the synopsis of that up real quick. Synopsis. And there's already some casting out and whatnot for that.
Hal
okay,
and,
so what's that?
Hal and John both casted, which is pretty awesome.
Yep. So the DCU series Lanterns is about two Green Lantern Corps members, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, who investigate a murder in the United States. Interesting. So it seems like Hal Jordan is going to be kind of the older one. I mean, the actor who got cast as him, I think, is like in his late 50s, early 60s. So, and then John Stewart's going to be kind of the new rookie cop as they investigate a murder. So that seems super interesting to me. And from what I've read of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, and then also some of the Green Lantern Corps, I like the characters overall. So I'm excited to see their take in live action, because we got it with Hal Jordan with Ryan Reynolds, but I don't think a lot of people like that. So
no.
So yeah, I'm excited for that one as well. What was the other one you said?
Superman.
Yeah, that's obviously one I'm excited for too. But
I mean, the talk of the town, like if we're just looking at this lineup here, is obviously Superman and Batman. I mean, those are the two where
for sure.
If
No.
he trips and fumbles on those two, then this entire thing is
Yep.
belly up.
Yep. And I believe because this isn't an order of
No.
like release.
I thought it was when we first got that graphic, but yeah, no.
Yeah, no. So, we're finishing up with Creature Commandos, then Superman Legacy, which is coming out. I think this July of 2025, I think, or June maybe. Let's see what a Fifth of Jack Gaming says. I think I am with Tyler. Superman. I feel like that is going to make or break Gunn's universe. Looking forward to Swamp Thing and Lanterns. I need to read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow first. Absolutely. Swamp Thing. Yeah, I think that will be interesting. I haven't seen the HBO show, which I hear is actually pretty good. But I have read Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing. I enjoyed it. I think there's a lot that can be done with that character. And I think it'll be interesting to see if they take more of a horror approach to that character. And I think that'd be pretty cool. Fifth of Jack Gaming, you definitely need to read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. That book, I love it. I think I actually I don't know. I'm kind of rereading some of the books I've read, and maybe I'll add that to the list.
So release wise, we have obviously Creature Commandos, Superman. You were right on the money with July 11th.
Nice.
Peacemaker season 2 comes out that August. It has the Sandman season 2, but I don't think that's confirmed. But Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is June of 2026. And then we do have also, which is not related, the Batman Part 2, which is October 2nd, 2026. Which all those are subject to change. So
yeah. I feel like with the Batman Part 2, I hope that it does come out in October of 2026. I feel like it's just too long in between, the first one and then now the second one. So I really hope that does stay on schedule, as well as Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I think that'd be awesome to see. Fifth of Jack Gaming says, I'm flip-flop with you, watch the show, but haven't done the reading. For Swamp Thing, been wanting to pick that up, just haven't made a cut yet. Yeah, you should definitely check that one out. I read it when I first got into comics a few years ago now, and I haven't revisited it. And honestly, I don't have much of an urge to, but maybe I will eventually. So I don't know. So yeah, I think this being the first chapter of the DC, yeah, I think there's some interesting choices in there. I think there's some riskier choices for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's a solid first chapter. From what I'm seeing here, I think I'm looking forward to some of these projects. I'll definitely watch them all. But Waller, The Authority are kind of the two I'm least excited for. So yeah, I don't know. Anything else to add with it to here? Any
no, not really. I mean, I'm just excited. The dimming of the MCU light has sucked to see because it was such a bright light at one point. So
oh my god, yeah.
I hope to see this be like the new bright cinematic comic book light that we get to see.
And I think it's definitely leaning that way. Not to say Marvel can't come back and relight that flame they had going, but I don't think if they do, I don't think it's ever going to be to the level that was like Endgame. I just don't think it will be. It'd be awesome if I'm wrong and there's they do another event lead up that's just super exciting and everyone's super hyped for it. But if I had to guess, I would say DCU is a little more promising for myself. So yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'm excited to see some castings soon. I feel like I imagine we're gonna get the Superman. Well, just Superman now.
Yep.
I imagine we'll get the trailer soon. I'm hoping before the end of the year.
I predict the Super
So
Bowl is when we'll see it.
you think the Super Bowl? Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that happening for sure. Um, but I want it before the end of the year. And once that drops, we'll talk about that on the show and kind of dive back into James Gunn's universe that he's setting up here. So yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add about Creature Commandos other than I'll watch it weekly. Maybe in each episode, I'll give a quick quick review of the show and my feelings and whatnot.
Mhm.
But I don't know anything else to add about Creature Commandos or James Gunn's universe, anything like that.
Nope. Um, didn't like it as much as you, but I'm still hopeful moving forward, and I'm gonna tune in every
Awesome.
week, and
Yeah,
hopefully that changes.
well, I hope so too. And yeah, we can touch upon it each episode and uh, give our thoughts on it real quick at the beginning of each show. I think that'll be fun to do. But yeah, I think let's wrap it up. I got nothing else really to add.
Okay.
Where can they find you, Illuminati?
Illuminati underscore on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. That's all of my socials. It is Illuminati underscore. If you don't put the underscore, you'll get someone else's channel. So
Is there
um,
another Illuminati without the underscore?
there's an Illuminati with no underscore, and instead of a Y, it's an I. And they
Huh.
are a massive channel, very,
Mhm.
very large channel. But that
I
is
did
not
not,
me. So
I did not know that. Interesting.
I only
You're the
learned
better
about that.
channel. You're the better
Thanks.
channel, I'll say.
I only learned about that because I was labeled as that probably for a good year in a Facebook group where
Oh,
they were
really?
putting that as my YouTube. So I like to
Uh,
think that the reason that other Illuminati popped off is because it's really all my fans. But
what type of content do they make? Is it
it's more like movie related, like kind of what we're doing here. Like not really about comic books, more about
I
comic
see.
book movies.
Got it. Okay, interesting. Um, awesome. Yeah, so please go check out Illuminati's channel. I what releases do you have this week?
This week I have me diving into the Ultimate Universe over at Marvel. I
Nice.
have The Incredible Hulk by Peter David, Volume 2, omnibus review. I will have a deep dive on the DC versus Marvel omnibus, breaking down each individual story, if I feel
Oh,
like
no
they're
kidding.
good or not. And then I also have my haul coming out at some point, which I just need to edit and release. But I don't know what's coming out first, so don't quote me on that. But that's what's scheduled.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll be uploading a video tomorrow and then probably early next week. I'm gonna film my analyst or video on N by William McPhail. Um, so yeah, I think that's gonna do it, folks. I appreciate you all watching. Please, if you have not, check out Illuminary's channel. And yeah, I think we'll be back next week, same time.